Morning, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to WestysAngling. Today we're at High Hayes Fishery and I'm going to be testing out these new Korum Camo window feeders. Well folks, it's 6:30 in the morning. I've just turned up to High Hayes Fishery to do a review of these new Korum feeders. And I get a phone call off my dad saying, have you got your scales with you? So let's go and see what he's caught. I'm going to be fishing at the end of the causeway today. It better be worth the hype. How big do you think it is? It's a double. Scales are in the back of the front back pocket. Okay, we'll put it in the middle.
What? This one?
No, this one I think.
I've ordered some myself.
Have you? Yeah, I think it's worth you having a set.
The ones I've got knackered.
I've checked them as well with a weight disc and they are.
Yeah, they're right.
They are right, yeah. Fish just mustn't be as big as we think then. Oh. Well, it's only about £5 that, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah. Oh. It's probably just shy of a double, I would have thought. Probably 9, 8, 9, 9, something like that with a net. Alright, I'll go and get all my stuff now. Okay folks, so before we get fishing, I'm just going to give you a closer look at the feeder itself. It's essentially a hybrid between a ground bait feeder and a traditional maggot feeder. Now, what you can do on these feeders is actually open up this cage side with one hand because I'm filming, and then pack your ground bait and maggots in there, close it shut, and it's just going to take a little bit longer for the ground bait to come out. There's going to be loads of attraction in there, and obviously the maggots can crawl through those side holes. So I'm really looking forward to testing these out. They have got a little line clip at the top, but if you've seen in some of my other videos, I'm not fully confident in using the line clip. I don't think they work very well, but it seems to be the way that all these new method feeders are going. Whether it's just a gimmick or what, I'm not sure. They don't come with inserts, these feeders. They do a few different weights. So they do a 30 gram, a 45 gram, and I think they do a 60 gram as well. So they go pretty big and quite heavy. So if you're using them on the river, you might be all right with the 60 gram. Obviously depending on which river and if it's in flood. The inserts here are interchangeable. They actually do these in sets, so you can push out the middle section, so I've not had a proper play about with these feeders yet, so this is the first time I'm really looking at them. And what's bad so far is I can't even get the stem out of this one, and the stems are meant to be detachable so that you can quick change these up. They do these in a normal method feeder as well, and they also do a full bug feeder which doesn't have this window part. It just has holes in the top, so you can just use maggots, and it's got the same window effect where you can pop this open and just fill it packed with maggots. So bait I've got with me today, I'm going to mix up some ground bait, and I've got some white maggots and some red maggots. I'm going to be using maggots on the hook, and I'm going to have one with a slightly longer hook length, probably like 10 inch, and then one with a short hook length, like 4 inch, like you would have a method feeder. But I'll show you that setup when we get fishing. But yeah, that's not very good so far, that I can't even get the insert out of that one. Let's see if this one comes out. Go on, Dad.
It doesn't go that way.
No, it comes out at the stem. The stem come out fine on the other ones. Go on, push it out. Go on, knock it out. So the stems are interchangeable, but you need a hammer with you. which is absolutely rubbish, and that was on both of them. The stems are that tight I can't even get them out. The inserts came out fine on the 30 grams. It just seems to be these ones that just struggling to get them out. But yeah, so the stems, a quick change reasonably if you've got a hammer. But can you see how it took that much force to get this stem out that we've actually bent the end? But that's not very good so far. They're just ridiculously tight, but they are meant to be interchangeable. But I'll trim that end off and then that should work fine now we've loosened it up, but it's just too tight. That's the problem. At least you know you're getting an honest review. I've bought these with my money, so I'll be reporting that to the company that I bought them off, because that's absolutely ridiculous that it takes so much strength to remove the stem. Like I said to you before, they do them in a pack of 3. I'll put a picture up now so that you know what I'm on about. But they do a pack of 3, a normal method feeder, this camo window feeder that these are called, and they do a grub feeder, which is all sealed and it's just got the holes in, but still got this openable cage. Okay, so I've already put 2 of these on my feeder rods, and I've just used matrix inserts because these don't actually come with the inserts to fit into the bottom of the feeder. Now I'm guessing that you'll probably be able to use a size 11 quick change swivel as well. It's about the right size for that hole. So if you wanted to use a quick change swivel rather than a bead, then I'm sure that you'd be fine using a size 11 with them. Okay folks, so I'm hoping that you're going to be able to make this out on the GoPro. The GoPros aren't very good close up, so I'm trying 2 different types of inserts. That's a matrix insert. As you can see, the inserts for the matrix ones are quite wide and they seem to fit well. It's quite a wide opening in the bottom of these Korum feeders. Now I'm sure Korum sell inserts and stuff like that, but I'm just using what I had to hand because they don't come with the feeder. And this is the insert out of my cheap eBay banjo feeders. They fit perfectly in the bottom of there as well. So a couple of different inserts, both fit. That's my rig with the longer hook length, so that's probably about 10 inch. And then I've got a normal 4-inch method feeder hook length on this one, and we'll see which one does better. We'll see which one works best with this particular feeder. I think the longer one probably will, because what we're going to be using is maggots on the hook. I've got some red and white maggots there, which we're going to mix in with our ground bait in a second, and then I'm just going to top it with one of these artificial maggots, just to stop the maggots wriggling all the way off the hook. So you'll see that once I've got set up and I've got some maggots on. I'll show you that in a little bit more detail. But yeah, these are really cheap. I think it's about £2 for 20-30, and they're not going to come off on the take. They'll stay on the hook. It'll just push when you hook into a fish, it'll just push the fake maggot around the shank of the hook. I'm using a size 12 hook, so a nice big hook for this, because I want 2 or 3 maggots on there, and I still want enough hook point left to actually set the hook into the fish using the weight of the feeder. So it's still going to be a bolt effect, which is what I want. If you're following the channel, you know my setup. I'm using my Shimano Speedmasters. I'm fishing heavy here because of some really big carp in. We need to be fishing heavy duty stuff. But yeah, that's the setup. Right, I'm going to get some ground bait mixed up and we'll get fishing and test these out. But so far I'm not really impressed with the quick change stems. I don't think they work very well. Yet on the 30 gram you can see they come out really easily. It just seems to be the 45 gram that was a little bit stiff for some reason. Yeah, they're coming out really easily on the 30 grams. Can you see that? I can just do that with my hand. Whereas on the 45 gram, it was just too stiff. Right, let's get some ground bait mixed up and we'll get fishing. I'm obviously not going to mix this whole bag. Take my rubbish with me. And that'll be plenty for today. Put a touch of water in there. Because it's going in a cage like feeder, I don't want to mix it too wet. Should be perfect, that. get it through the riddle. That'll do us. Big handful of red maggots and a big handful of white. And then we'll use them as hook baits and mix them now. They're the maggots from the hook. I've got 2 pints for today, which is probably excessive. Let's put some more in there. We want a good amount of maggots in that ground bait, and that should still bind together. That's perfect. Okay, so how this method feeder works, let's put some more maggots in there. You open up the clip on the side of the feeder, pack that with maggots and ground bait, which isn't going together very well, I'll be honest. Again, this is the first time I'm trying these out. So I've tried that a couple of times now, and if you get any ground bait round the edge of the feeder, it just doesn't shut properly. So I can see this being a little bit of a faff to get it right, but maybe I'm using it wrong. I'll try it a couple of different ways, but there we go. As you can see, maggots are wriggling out of there through the holes, so it does work. It's just a bit of a pain to get shut. Now what might be better is keeping it closed and just packing the ground bait and maggots through the top. So I'll try it that way, but if you just pack them through the top, what's the point of it opening on the side? Do you know what I mean? So I'll try it the other way next. So I'm going to be fishing one rod down this little island margin here, and then my other rod probably over to where the aerator should be. I'll fish the short hook length down the margin and the longer hook length a little bit further out where there'll be more silt. Let's try loading this feeder up another way. Load the maggots on the hook first. I'm going to be fishing with a good bunch of maggots. 1, 2, 3. Now if you're new to fishing, make sure you hook your maggots through the fat end, and then I'm just going to top those maggots with a fake one. So we'll go with a fake red maggot, and then we'll just pull that, nick it and pull it back around the shank of the hook. You see that? Also that way, if the maggots come off, you're never going to be fishing with no bait on the hook, and a carp will still take one of them artificial maggots. You don't have to worry about it. This time I'm going to load it up in a slightly different way. I'm going to put some ground bait in. I'm going to push some maggots in. I'm just going to top it with some more ground bait. There we go. That's probably the best way of doing it, but if you're doing it like that, why bother having it open on the sides? So that's where I'm fishing that one. Just tighten up to that feeder. Keep an eye on that other rod while I'm loading this one up. But yeah, that's definitely the best way of doing it. Pushing them through the top. I've seen loads of bubbles coming up just off that little island outcrop in the margin. So there's probably carp down there. I'm hoping for bream and tench further out with a chance of barbel. Good maggots, these are really fresh. My dad picked them up from Koppel Anglers yesterday. Said that the price had gone up. It was about £3 per pint. Again, just topping it with a fake maggot. We'll be able to reuse them. You don't have to put a new one of them on every time. And just push the maggots and ground bait into the top of that feeder. But what's the point in having it open on the side? What's the point in that? Is it so that you can clear it out afterwards? I don't know. I don't see there at any point in that method feeder opening, to be quite honest, but it is what it is. I think that's a little bit of a gimmick personally, but you can make your own judgments seeing it as I'm seeing it. But it does seem to work well. The maggots crawl out of the holes, which is what's meant to happen. It's essentially like a hybrid between a maggot feeder and a method feeder. Which is a brilliant idea, but the design, in my opinion, isn't the best. I feel like one of the problems I'm going to have today is small fish pulling at the maggots. I keep getting little tugs and then obviously it not materialising into anything, which is probably small-eyed. There are some really big-eyed in here as well, so just needs one of the bigger fish to come round and take that hook bait and we're all good. Keep loading it up like we're doing. There are some bubbles coming up further out, so I can always try further out a little bit later on if I need to. So if you're wondering how much the feeders are, they're currently £2.25 a feeder at the time of this video. I've gone for two different sizes. I've gone for a 45 gram and a 30 gram. The 30 grams is the one that I've got on these rods at the moment, but I just wanted a slightly heavier one as well, just in case I like the feeders and I wanted to fish a little bit further out. But 30 grams ideal for these light method feeder rods that I'm using. Okay, so let's have a slightly closer look at this feeder. Obviously it's got a hinge joint on one side and a little clip on the other side. Now if you get any kind of ground bait around the edge of the feeder in the groove, it doesn't shut properly. So what I'm finding is if you keep it shut, put your maggots in, put your ground bait in, put some more maggots in and then top it off with some more ground bait, that's probably the best way of doing it. As you know from my other videos, I don't hold much faith in these line clips. I think it shortens the hook length too much. And as you know, for a carp to take a rig right into its mouth, it needs to be probably about 4 inch. And then what normally happens is you'll hook the carp or the bream or whatever, or the tench on the eject. Like I said, they fit most inserts into the bottom. Some are tighter than others. I'm sure Korum will do their own, but I haven't got any of them, so I'm just improvising with what I've got. The 30 gram version of these, the middle stems come out a lot easier than them 45 gram ones did. Whether I've just got a faulty batch there, I don't know. But that's a little bit of a closer look at it. Really simple design, but is it a gimmick? We'll see. There's no saying that I can't fish with wafters and these feeders. So if I keep getting this problem with the little fish, I'll just swap onto 2 normal method feeder hook lengths and wafters. So I'm actually going to swap to a wafter, which isn't really what I wanted to do today, but I just keep getting little twitches on the rod tip and not actually hooking into anything. So I'm going to swap it and use these with a wafter, still feeding the maggots and ground bait, but the hook bait just needs to be something a little bit more substantial today. If you're not sure how to tie up your own method feeder hook lengths, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner now for you if you want to learn how to do so. Going with a size 10 feeder hook and an 8mm wafter, pink band and washed out by Sonia Baits. Got a lot of faith in these wafters, and like I said, I'm just going to load it up as I was doing with the maggots and ground bait. So the only reason I can think of the cage of the feeder actually opening up is to clean it. If you want to stop the maggots and ground bait coming out before you cast up, just hold it in your hand like that and just squeeze the feeder slightly. So let's drop this one back down the margin. You might think I'm fishing really close in there, but that's actually about 6 foot deep in the margin, really deep here. We'll do the same on the other. Well folks, I've had absolutely nothing so far. I think the point of these feeders is that it's meant to be a modular system, an inline system that you can swap between a maggot feeder, like a conventional cage feeder, and a normal method feeder. I think that's why they've done them, because obviously you can get all three in a set, and all you do, like the Preston Innovations ones, you just pop out the middle stem, and then it's got a slit in the back that the line goes through, that allows you to obviously change out the stems. But to me, I think that the cage part of it with the maggot feeder is a little bit gimmicky. Alright, it lets you use, for example, what you would use like a conventional cage feeder in an inline system, but I don't know. I'm not overly convinced by them, but at the same time, I do see the benefits to them. Would I be using them again? Probably not. I mean, I've not had a fish so far, and I've no doubt in my mind that if I was fishing the method feeders with wafters, I would have caught more fish. So if you're buying them to catch more fish, I don't think these will catch you more fish than a conventional method feeder would. But obviously it's up to you, it's personal preference, and if you wanted to try something just a little bit different, or maybe if you wanted to use a winter tactic where you're not putting loads of pellets out, then that might be a good idea as well. It does allow you to use maggots as feed on the method feeder, if that makes sense. So it's good for that reason as well. So obviously it does have its benefits, and obviously it's a nifty little invention, but at the same time I feel like it's almost reinventing the wheel. But like I said, down to you guys to make your own judgments. All I know is that most people on the lake are catching. My dad's catching, a fella across from me, he's had a few. So the fish are feeding, it's just potentially this method isn't working as well as it could be today. So as a thank you for watching the video folks, I will be giving away these two 45 gram Korum Camo window feeders, and also the two 30 gram feeders that I've got on the rods. Now you'll have to excuse, one of these has been hit with a hammer, but I'll neaten it up for you, I'll trim the end off, and hopefully it'll be working fine now I've loosened up the insert. But yeah, so I'll pick somebody at random from the comments below, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel and head over to the WestysAngling Instagram and Facebook page and hit the follow button on them too as well, and you'll be in with a chance of winning these two feeders, and hopefully they bring you more luck than they have done for me today. It's been a long time coming, that fish, hasn't it, Dad? Yeah, nice bream. I've just swapped over to the Scorpex yellow wafter. But there we go. There's the Camo window feeder, but that's the first fish I've had on it today. I'm actually considering swapping back over to method feeders for the rest of the session, but I'll keep on with these for another hour or so, and then I'll probably swap back onto method feeders for the rest of the day. Look at that. Lovely bream. Well folks, I'm going to bring this feeder review and test to an end there and swap on to normal method feeders for the rest of my session. What do I think about this feeder? Well, it's definitely a good feeder to add to your arsenal. It's got its own purposes. Would I use it instead of a normal method feeder? Do I think it's more advantageous? Probably not. I think it'll be a good winter feeder if you wanted to just put maggots and ground bait out. So it has got its purposes, but as for me, I think I'll be sticking to the normal method feeders. But I hope this video has been insightful and it's helped you decide whether you want to purchase some of these for yourself. Don't forget to comment down below to be in with a chance of winning the giveaway, and thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next Westies Angling.